growing up, we had some security issues it was super scary. And we had to leave our house, and there were, incidents that were just totally terrifying.
The scariest part of all of that for you was what?
I think the scariest part for me was that because I was the oldest child, I was aware something was going on. And it was like, why can't I call my friends? And, they don't want to explain to me because frickin' phones are tapped, trying to find where we are.
How did you find out your phones had been tapped?
It was research that just came through the police department. Ultimately, the FBI became involved, and then there were vehicles observed in our area that very well fit the description of some of the people that they thought might be involved, and we just picked up the family and left.
My mom had a couple of medical things that happened at that time where she had to go to the hospital for panic attacks. And the weirdest memory was during the LA riots, because it was all happening around that time, and a bunch of folks showed up at our house, and who were, I later found out, either part of the FBI or some protective measure. And I saw their firearms. I saw the hushed conversations, and I remember the stress that my parents were under, and then my dad kind of worked through it in effect with Ransom.
When I read that script, Brian had found it, brought it to me. I had been looking for a project about kidnapping because we'd been through this horrible experience where our home had been targeted, and it was unclear as to what the criminal objectives were, but it was not good. But the police had gotten wind of it, and we had stakeouts at our home, and it was very traumatic, but thank God no crimes were committed. And but just the pressure of anticipating that possibility, I found fascinating. And in my own, again, ongoing quest to understand all sides of every issue that people experience and go through, I kept wondering what was going through those kidnappers' heads. Mm-hmm. What were they thinking? Why? And of course, I had no answers. But the question was there. Well, this script, Ransom, sort of answered some of those questions, or at least posited a possibility. So I projected all that emotion and anxiety and kind of empathy that I had for that crisis, that situation, and poured it into that story. And it's the only time I've really wanted to do a crime story, because I don't want to celebrate crime, and I don't necessarily find it cool or intriguing, but this was emotional and raw and personal for me.
I understand some of those scenes in that film, because of what he'd gone through, were extra hard for him. Did you guys ever have conversations?
I remember, of course, talking about it in the script stage. We'd talk about it then, that he was able to relate to it really well. And it's sort of the premise of the movie, and the movie is basically, even though it's played by Mel Gibson, he's playing relatively average guy. He doesn't have superpowers at all. He's just a dad, executive husband, and but when he got pushed into a corner, he took the most aggressive position. And that's probably what Ron would do. So a lot of it was like a way for Ron, it was probably very therapeutic for him, because that is how he plays the game of life.
What do you mean?
He is extremely collaborative until he feels pushed in a corner. If he feels sure that his artistic vision is being threatened, he won't allow that to happen.
What does he do in those situations?
He'll assert all of his energy and power to defeat that.
Was there a moment during that process where you could breathe a sigh of relief, where you just knew this is over, we're good?
The reality is, once you've felt that vulnerability, I think you're forever on your guard. You go on and you figure out ways to live with it, but you can't forget about it.